Okay, hello everyone. This is going to be one of my first videos, and I think it's a really important topic. People very much underestimate the effect of having really good website hosting on the experience for your customer of your website. So we in the know, those of us who are experts at building websites, etc., we know that there are typically two factors that really can affect the experience of your website. Whenever there's problems being experienced, if you're on Facebook groups for various tools and there are problems, pretty much 95% of the time people either give advice, change your hosting is a problem, or it could be related to something like caching. Now the two are kind of related. And so what a lot of people don't realize is that not all hosting is created equally. And that's why I'm doing this video today. I want to really give you the ability to change your hosting fairly easily. I'm going to take you through the whole video, step by step, how to move your existing website from wherever it is hosted now onto a brand spanking new super fast server. So what do I recommend? I really recommend Cloudways, and specifically a Volta HF, that stands for high frequency server. So these are located in various locations around the world. If you come along to cloudways.com, if you just search for Cloudways and you come along to Cloudways, or you click on the link below in this video, you're going to come along to Cloudways over here. And you're going to get started. You can actually get started with a free trial, or you can see the plans and pick a server. We're going to go ahead and start your free trial. So I'm going to take you through as if you were a completely new user to Cloudways, never been on Cloudways before, and we're going to move a site. And we're going to actually see the effect of having a site hosted on not so great hosting, or should we say very average shared hosting, versus having your own dedicated server that you can manage the resources and how many websites you actually put on that server. So at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's about how many sites you can load on a server. And when you are with your regular web host, I'm not going to mention names, but a regular, what we call shared web host, you are one of many websites crammed onto a server, and that is why your website doesn't perform well. So I'm going to use a little demo website that I have here that's set up on regular shared hosting, and I actually went to GTmetrix. So GTmetrix is a great place, gtmetrix.com, to check the stats of your website, like load times, etc. So I ran GTmetrix, and this is the rather awful before report on a normal shared host. So I'm scoring a dismal E, 43% in performance. And what's really important here is this number over here, fully loaded time, 7.6 seconds to load what is really quite a small web page, 1.44 megs, not very big at all. The other important factors, and this is very much related to your hosting, so if you do this test on GTmetrix and you get a very high TTFB, that stands for time to first byte. In other words, that is the time it takes for that person's browser to receive information back from your web server. This time to first byte is 2.2 seconds. So somebody tries to come to this demo website and they wait 1, 2, okay, now the page starts loading. Then your first content paint, or your first meaningful paint, is 3.3 seconds. I mean, by now somebody has bounced off. And as I said, the total load time is 7 point something seconds. So you're going to see if there's a lot of red things here and yellow things. This is all hosting. I can pretty much guarantee it's hosting, unless you've got a website that's full of, enormous plugins and huge images, etc. You are going to see a very drastic improvement in changing your hosting. So let's go for it. I'm going to show you exactly how to migrate your existing website to Cloudways Volta HF, and here we go. So you're going to go ahead to Cloudways, you're going to click on start your free trial, or start free at the top, and you're going to go and create a new Cloudways account. So I'm just going to put my details in, and I'm going to create a completely new account. And I'm going to just create a password. Who would you describe yourself as? You may be a blogger, a freelancer. It doesn't really matter who you are. Just choose a category that applies to you, or choose other business if none of these apply to you. And your monthly hosting spend, you're going to choose whatever you're currently spending. You're going to agree to the terms and conditions. Oh, lovely. Cloudways doesn't like my surname, so I'm going to remove the hyphen. Please, people, can you make allowances for hyphens and surnames? And then I'm going to go ahead and click. Alrighty, so now my Cloudways account is created, and now it's going to ask me, there's a little getting started here, welcome to Cloudways. We're going to click on start now, and now we're going to get straight away into selecting our server. So the first thing we need to do is select our server. Take my advice, go for Volta. And you want to click on this little drop down here and choose high frequency. This is really going to give you the best bang for your buck, as it were. I'm going to choose, let's choose Atlanta. Actually, let's choose Dallas, Texas. So how to choose your location on your hosting. You want to host somewhere where most of your clients are closest to. In the greater scheme of things, this doesn't make a massive difference, but if, for example, most of your clientele is in the UK, you would want to have your server based in the UK. If most of your clientele is in, the US, you would want to have it based in the US, etc. So just bear in mind who your ideal or your target clients are, and choose a location for your server in that location. You can choose what size server to go to. I think for the purposes of the free trial, you can't go higher than 2 gig if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so it tells you if you try to go as high as 4 gig on trial, you can only launch a server up to 2 gig. Once you're out of the trial, it's super easy to scale your server up without really anything at all having to change other than scaling it up. So for the purposes of the trial, we're going to go ahead with 2 gig. What do I normally set up for myself? I normally set up 4 gig, but on a 4 gig server, I can run some pretty hefty membership sites, e-commerce sites, and I would typically put up to 10 sites on a 4 gig server, not more than that. There are hosts out there who will put 50 to 100 basic brochure sites on a 4 gig server, and it'll be perfectly fine. But personally, for my clients, I want really high performance websites, really fast websites, high resources, so I tend to stick with 4 gigs, and I don't put more than 6 to 10 sites on any particular server. So if you are setting this up just for yourself, for 1 or 2 of your websites, you can totally go with 2 gig. It's going to do the job brilliantly. So Volta, HF, choose your location, go for a 2 gig, and we're going to click on launch now. But I have to first verify my account. Right, so once you have checked your email and clicked on the activate account link in your email, your account will then be verified. It will say thank you for verifying your account, and you can now launch your free trial server. So we've got the Volta, high frequency, USA Dallas, and we're going to click on launch now, and you will see that this costs $26 a month. Unbelievable, really, with the speed that you're going to get. If you compare this with some other managed WordPress hosting out there, which costs quite a fortune and doesn't perform as well, this is really an affordable hosting solution. So you're going to go ahead and click launch now, and your server has been added. You can, of course, start inviting friends and getting referrals, etc., but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to just close that window, and you will see that it is busy adding the server. Now, at the moment, it says it's going to take 13 minutes to add the server. Often it doesn't take more than a minute or two, but we are going to wait for this server to be added before continuing on. Right, you will see that the server is just about ready for us to use. There is 1 minute to go of adding the server, and there the server has been added. So I'm going to take you through a couple of server settings that I would recommend before getting into actually migrating your site. So just go ahead and click on your server. Everything you could possibly need in terms of passwords, usernames, access, etc., you're going to find in these server management settings. I'm going to go ahead to the section called Manage Services, and we're going to wait for the services to load, and we're going to make sure that Varnish is running over here. So this is your caching, and then we are going to go to Settings and Packages. And there's a couple of limits that I like to change at server level rather than individual accounts, so that I can make sure that all of my apps have a certain level of memory, etc. So one of the ones that I like to change right out the bat is under Settings and Packages, Basic, and it's this one over here called Memory Limit. And I normally set this to either 512 or 1024, just depending on how hectic the site is. If there's a lot of processing, online courses, e-stores, etc., I would probably go up to 1024, but for a normal website I would probably leave it at 512, which is more than enough for what you need. I'm going to go ahead and make this 1024 in my case, and I'm going to save changes. It'll just take a couple of seconds to save that change. And then there's one more element I'm going to go and change, and that is on the next screen. So once this finishes saving, we're going to have a look on the Advanced tab. Right, there you go, it's finished saving. Now we're clicking on Advanced. And the setting I'm looking at is this max input variables. That is set to 2,500 by default. I normally just increase this. I pick a random number, and the random number I choose is 9,000. I find if I set it to 9,000, I'm very unlikely to have any issues. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes again. So one of the other enhancements I like to add is Redis. So you're going to go to Settings and Packages again, and under the section called Packages, you're going to find Redis over here, which isn't installed by default. You're going to go ahead and click on Install, and again it'll just take a couple of seconds while Redis is installed. So I'm not going to pretend to understand what exactly Redis is, but from my basic understanding, it's kind of like database caching. So if you have a site that's very database intensive, there you go, it's installed. If you go back to services, you will see Redis over here running. So Redis and Varnish should be running. So if you have a site that's quite heavy and intensive on the database, like an e-commerce store, or learning management system, or membership site, it can help speed your site up. So I've got both of those enabled, and my server is now optimized. I am ready to set up my application or my website and go ahead and import my existing website. So on the top here you'll see servers. We've been setting up our server and dealing with our server. We're now going to click on Applications on the top menu, and an application is a website. So any extra websites you want to add on your server, you're going to click on Add Application, and you're going to go through that process. So by default, when we created our server, it created a base application. If you like the term a base application, you can actually use this, or you can set up a new application. Completely up to you. We are going to use this existing application. You can change its name to your website or whatever the case is just by clicking on this and changing its name. So we're going to say Chantal's Demo with no apostrophe. Alright, we're going to go ahead and save that application. Is now called Chantal's Demo. Now these are the steps I would normally take to migrate a website. So first of all, go ahead to Migration Tools and download the migration plugin. So this is the Cloudways migration plugin, which will be downloaded to your machine now. You're going to go ahead and go to your website that you want to move, and you're going to go to the dashboard. You're going to make sure you log in, and you're going to go and install that application or that plugin. So go to plugins. I would, incidentally, while we're here, I would just make sure that you update your plugins, your theme, and WordPress to the latest version of everything. You can see how slow this site is on shared hosting in the dashboard. So this is one of the changes you're going to see it's a huge change. So we're going to go to plugins, you're going to click on add new, and you're going to browse for the plugin that you just downloaded from Cloudways. So I've browsed for the plugin and now I'm going to install it. There you go, the plugin is installed and we're now going to click on activate. Once you've activated the plugin, you're going to see this screen which is ready to migrate your site to Cloudways. So first of all, it's going to ask you to enter an email address. And you're going to have to check the box to agree to their terms and conditions, and then you're going to click on the migrate button. This is going to bring you to a screen where you need to grab your settings from Cloudways. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have the correct website address. So go to your website and you're going to copy the exact website address as it appears in the bar of your website. Copy your website address, go back to Cloudways, and in your application window, you're going to go down to domain management and you're going to paste in the domain or the website address. You're going to remove the HTTP or HTTPS : // You're going to remove that part and you're going to remove any slashes at the end. So it's literally just the website address. It's very important if your existing website is, for example, www.mywebsite.com, that you include the www as your primary domain. It needs to be exactly the same as your existing site. Go ahead and save changes. So what this is doing is it's making sure that this particular application uses that exact same website address when this website is copied across. If your website is available at both, let's say, onedaywebsites.coza and www. You can add that additional domain over here in additional domains. I often think it's a good idea to add both. So both the normal website with and without the www. The primary one is going to be exactly as your website currently is, and the additional domain is going to be the other one. So that primary domain has now been set up, and if we go back to access details, you'll see that this admin panel and everything has changed. You're going to pick up some of the information you need on the screen. One of the things you need to do is set up a FTP access in order for this migration to happen. So you can create any username here. So I'm going to call this Chantal demo, Chantal-demo, and then you need to create a password. So at the moment I'm just going to copy the password from the database just to make it easy for me, and I'm going to go ahead and click add, but you can add any password, any secure password at all there, and it'll take a couple of seconds to create those credentials. You now have everything you need to go ahead and migrate your site. So first of all, we're going to go back and see what does it need, and the first thing it needs is the domain. So you're going to copy exactly the domain that you want it to move to, this time with the HTTPS. Then it's wanting your server address. So you're going to go back here and you're going to copy this public IP. In Cloudways, you just click to copy and it copies it for you conveniently. You go back and you paste it in over there. So that is the IP. You're going to now need the database name. So you go back to Cloudways and you look over here for database name. Click to copy. You're going to paste the database name in. This is now where you need that username and password that you just set up. It's the SFTP username and password. So you're going to copy your username, you're going to paste it in, and you're going to copy the password and you're going to paste it in. Typically these three you can leave set to no, no, and no, and go ahead and hit migrate. So Cloudways is now going to validate the details that we've just given it. Takes a couple of seconds, and once it's validated those details, it'll actually show the progress of the migration. You'll also receive an email, so I've just received the email in the background to say that the migration has started. And here it says your site is being migrated to Cloudways. It's moving from this address to this address, so we can see the two are exactly the same. And it says sit back and relax while we move your site. So this migration can take, depending on the size and complexity of the site and the size of the database, anywhere from 5 or 10 minutes to several hours. The biggest site I've ever moved took approximately 2 hours to move the site, but it was an enormous site with a very, very large database. For your average site, this is not going to take much time at all. You will see this migration is progressing. It's been a minute or so, and we are 17% of the way through the tables syncing, and we're now starting with the files. You'll see it's not a very big website. It is about 370 megs of files and a pretty average sized database. So while this migration is happening, I'm going to tell you what you're going to need to get next. So the next thing you're going to need to get your hands on is your DNS settings. So what does that mean? It's basically where we tell the world, the web, the internet, and browsers where your website is. In other words, what IP address should it be sending the browsers to when they are looking for your website. So you may need to get this from your existing host. Depending on where you are currently hosted, you may have a cPanel login, for example. So this is what cPanel looks like, or you can get hold of your host and just ask them for instructions of where your DNS settings are. Now, sometimes your DNS settings or your domain settings are set in the same place as your web hosting, and you might need to separate those, especially if you're wanting to move your hosting away. For example, if you're with SiteGround and your domain is registered with SiteGround, the only option for managing your domain on SiteGround is a cPanel account. So you have to pay for web hosting in order to have your domain managed by SiteGround. So if you're moving from SiteGround, for example, you may want to move your domain elsewhere. That is the topic of another video, but long and the short of it is you need to find where your DNS settings are set in order to point to your new server. So typically that's in a cPanel or some kind of domain management panel. And what it's going to look like is if we go into DNS Zone Editor, it's going to look something like this. You can go into the Manage Settings, and in this case we are looking for A-name records. And this is a case where this is actually a subdomain. It's demo dot. Here it is over here, the demo dot. And that is the server IP that the website is currently sitting on. So you're going to want to change these settings when the migration is finished to the new IP which you have under Cloudways, which is this IP over here. Let's see how our migration is going. There we go. We are 96% of the way through the table now, and we are 27% of the way through moving the files. So you can see this is moving pretty quickly. Once it gets going, it doesn't take long at all. While our migration is continuing, I want to make you more familiar with the Cloudways interface, especially the live chat feature or the support feature. So anytime you need help in Cloudways, you will see there is a button here on the right, Need a Hand. I have to say I've been very pleasantly surprised by the support at Cloudways, barring literally one or two less than favorable support queries. I've had really, really great support from Cloudways. So anytime you need help, you click on Need a Hand. I tend to go live chat because I'm I want it fixed right now kind of girl. I'm not a delayed gratification kind of girl. So I tend to click on live chat, but you could also create a ticket if it's not an urgent matter. So normally I click on live chat, and there's the Cloudways bot. It says welcome to the bot, and it starts off with do you need help with billing or technical help, or what exactly do you need help with? So you click on the relevant buttons and you can get some bot help. So in other words, it shows you articles that might answer your question, and if those don't answer your questions, it gets you through to a support person. I have enabled the chat or support API, I think, or add-on on my account. So the support add-on, standard support, is what you get for free and for nothing, and that is what I use on my account. I know a lot of hosts, etc., they add advanced support and premium support to their servers. I haven't needed to add any paid support to any of my Cloudways servers because the support has really been very, very good, barring those one or two less than favorable chats. So anytime you need help, there's live chat over here, or create a ticket over there, or you can go to the community and search for whatever it is you're trying to do. Their documents are really quite great, and you get given documents when you go into live chat depending on what you are searching for. So right, I'm just going to start this again, start the chat again. Okay, and it's asking me what I need help with, and I'm going to do, for example, technical help. And it's going to give me a whole lot of topics here. So let's say, for example, you need more help on this DNS thing I was just talking about. You can click on DNS, and it's going to ask you, what do you need help with? Is it the A records, the MX records, the SBF records, the propagation, checking it? What do you need help with? We're going to be changing A records, so let's click on A records. And it says, sure, have you already mapped your domains on the Cloudways platform? So it's going to ask you questions and guide you through. So just answer the questions for anything that you're looking for help with, and the support is really quite good. Once you get through to a support agent, they are really pretty jacked up, to be quite frank. Okay, so I'm going to close the chat for now, but I really wanted you to see that the chat is available anytime to help you. Right, let's pop back and see how this migration is going. Almost there. So all of the database has gone across. We are about 63% of the way through the files. And once those two are done, the overall migration will just take a couple of minutes. All right, this is getting exciting, nearly there. We are 99% of the way through the files syncing, 100% of the tables, and you'll see this overall migration slider is going to go ahead. So once this migration is finished, you'll actually be sent an email. So you don't need to sit and watch the screen. You could go and grab a glass of wine or make a tea or a coffee and wait to get the email before continuing on with the next step. Because I'm filming this video, I'm watching with eager, bated breath for this migration to finish. So almost there, you'll see the overall migration is now sitting at 60%. And once this finishes, what it's doing during this part, by the way, is it's making sure that it's made everything correct in the database. It's making sure that everything is like this in the database. In this case, there's nothing changing, so it will go quite quickly. But if you were migrating from to, let's say, a staging site or a temporary site that you want to use, and this address was different to this address, this overall migration stage might take a little bit longer because it's actually changing all the addresses in the database. But in this case, it's moving them across as is. So this little slider should go quite quickly. And the next step is going to be how do you check that the site has migrated across very well? So it's a little bit techy normally the way I do it, and it's done using something called your hosts file. And basically on your machine, you tell your machine to go to this particular IP address for the website. And once you've done that, you can go and view the website before you've actually pointed the DNSs to that site. You could also attach a secondary domain that you can access the site from, but that's a little bit more complicated. So while I'm waiting for this to finish up, I'm going to go back to this application. We're in apps, and this is the one that we are busy migrating at the moment. under domain management, you're actually going to see a Cloudways address here. So you can actually add this as an additional domain or potentially access the site at that domain once the migration is finished. We'll just wait for that migration to finish before we can go ahead and test the site. Right, you can see that this overall migration is now sitting at 95%, and it is very, very nearly there. And there we have it, the migration is complete. So you will have received an email when your migration completed. So if you weren't watching the screen, you would get an email notification, and it tells you that your email is complete, and it tells you exactly what to do next. Connect your domain, which we've done already, enable the SSL, and configure your settings. So we're going to go back to Cloudways, and we are now ready to change our DNS settings. So if you want to test the site before you actually point your DNS settings, so bearing in mind if it's been successful, it's you're going to be pretty sure that everything is going to be fine. However, I do like to go to the extra step of testing that the site has migrated. And so I use the method of changing my host file. I'm quite used to it. It's a bit of old hat for me. It's another video in itself because it depends on what you are using, what machine you are on, Mac versus Windows, etc., of how you change your host file. If you go along to Google, we do love Google, and you go change hosts file, you're going to find a lot of instructions about how to do this. How do you change your host file? So you may want to search for change hosts file Mac or change hosts file PC. So I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to search for change hosts file Mac. And here we go. This is InMotion hosting. It doesn't matter where the instructions come from. And this is how to edit your host file on a Mac. And this is actually, this is exactly the instructions I use to change the host file on my Mac to test the site. You can go ahead, obviously, to Google if you're on PC and go change host file PC. And you'll find an article explaining how to do that. So here we go, how to edit your host file on Windows, Mac, or Linux. So you're going to find instructions no matter what machine you're on of how to change your host file. It's pretty simple. Once you've got the right instruction of what to edit, it's just a text file, and all you're doing is adding your IP address and your web address. So I'm going to go and show you how to do that on Mac. So I'm going to launch my terminal, which is what I use on Mac to do this. So terminal window is basically like a command line on a PC. So here's my terminal window, and I actually have these little code snippets saved. So I'm going to put in this command, and as I said, you can find that anywhere online what command you need to use. I'm going to close this website in the background. We don't need that popping up. I'm going to pop in my computer, my password for my computer, and this is now the hosts file. So pretty simple what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and copy this IP. We're going to put it into our host file, and then we're going to put the website in without any HTTP. So just demo.onedaywebs.coza, and I'm then going to follow the instructions of how to save this, and then I'm going to clear my caches. All right, so at the moment, before going to change the IP, I would know that I was in my old server because I can see the Cloudways migrate window over here. If I now go ahead and open a new incognito window for Chrome, so there's my new incognito window for Chrome. Oh, and I want to go to this website. First of all, it's going to tell me it's not secure. this is the first way I know that I am accessing the right site, because we don't have SSL on our server yet. You actually need to point your DNSs in order to set the SSL up. So once you see this, you know that you are now going to look at your site on Cloudways. You're going to click on Advanced, and you're going to click on Proceed, because you're sure that you want to go to the site. You are then going to log in with your username and password, exactly the same one you used before. And one thing you'll notice is that you no longer have this Cloudways migrate. It's automatically been moved by Cloudways when they migrated the site. And the other thing you'll notice is there'll be a message here saying, thank you for installing Breeze. Breeze is Cloudways' caching plugin, and it automatically gets installed when you migrate your site to Cloudways. So if you go to plugins, you will see that there is now a plugin. First of all, you'll see that the migration plugin has been deactivated, so you can be sure now that you are looking at the right site. And you'll see over here that Breeze has been installed. Sometimes you will also see something called bot protection or malcare over here, which also gets installed by default with Cloudways. It's part of their bot protection on their servers. So here we are logged into the site. You can go ahead, view the site, make sure everything looks exactly the same. Make sure everything looks like it's working. You know, go into your page builder, go and have a look at your pages, and just basically sniff around and make sure everything looks the same. I can see that this site is 100% fine. So I'm going to close down that incognito window, and I'm going to go ahead and change my DNS settings to point to the new server. So again, this is the same application we're in. This is the IP that we're copying. You're going to now go ahead to your DNS settings. You're going to find where your A record is for that specific domain that you're wanting to move. So here's my demo.onedaywebsites.coza. That is the current IP. I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to paste my new IP in, and I'm also going to make this shorter. You can make it 300 or 600, which is 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes there's a restriction on this number. So what this number is what we call your TTL, your time to life. And it's how long it takes for this DNS change to happen. So there's an easy way to check if the DNS change has happened. What you do is you go ahead and copy the domain, and you go to dnschecker.org. You paste in your website address, you leave it on A, and you click search, and you see what the number is. So already I can see that it's actually changed to this number. So if we now go ahead to that site, we're going to see that SSL error. So you're going to want to go to SSL certificate over here, and you're going to put in your email address. Now the SSL certificates are free on Cloudways, onedaywebs.com. Couldn't type my own email there. And you're going to paste in the domain name of the website, and you're going to click on install certificate, and this normally takes 30 seconds or so. And once it's installed, it's going to show a little message up at the right here to say that it's installed, and then when you go back to your website, you're going to see that that privacy error has gone away. There you go. You'll see the message over here says let's encrypt certificate installed successfully, and then it asks you if you want to redirect to HTTPS. If your original site was HTTPS, I would click on this enable HTTPS redirection, and that means if somebody comes to http:// they're automatically going to be redirected to the secure version of your site. So again, this just takes a few seconds, normally about 30 seconds or so to enable. There you go, it's done. Enable redirection is done, and you can close your window. If we now come back to the site and we refresh, you'll see that this not secure goes away. So first of all, it's already picked up that we are now on the new server, and I've gone ahead and logged in. This is definitely the new server that I'm logged into. I can see again because there's no Cloudways migrate at the bottom. If you're still seeing Cloudways migrate, you are likely still seeing your old server. You may need to restart your modem or clear your browser caches to make sure that you are seeing the correct site. Okay, so now the $1,000,000 question: how has this improved our GT metrics ratings? Let's have a look. So you will recall that we had an E, a 43, a lot of reds and yellows, and a 7.6 second load time. I'm going to open up the new GT metrics report and let's see what we have. Right, let's go to the top. Wow, look at this. A's 97, 96, pretty much amazing results. The fully loaded time is 1.3 seconds from 7 point whatever it was. And if we go down to the end, look at this. We've got the time to first byte is in milliseconds, I think, microseconds, I don't know, whatever that is, it's less than seconds. Your first contentful paint is less than 1 second, and your fully loaded time is 1.3 seconds. I mean, this is unbelievable results. So this is when I say to you, not all hosting is created equally. You will now understand what I mean by not all hosting is created equally. Let's see these results side by side. This is, you can't argue with the numbers. It's pretty damning. So if your site is slow and you need to get a better experience for you and for your customers, you're going to want to remove your hosting. Bear in mind, this site doesn't even have caching enabled. So that's the next thing I'm going to show you, is how to actually enable your caching. So I use Beaver Builder or various page builders on my sites, and often with page builders, caching plugins can cause crabs, let's be quite frank. So these are my particular settings I set on all my sites. Even when I'm developing on them, they don't tend to cause me any issues. So first of all, you check this first box under settings, Breeze, you check the first box. I normally set this purging of the cache to 60 minutes, especially when I'm busy developing on a site, but the default setting here would be daily. So basically, this is the number of minutes, and 1,440 minutes is 1 day, is 24 hours. As I say, if you're developing, set it to 60. I check the first two options, HTML and CSS, and I check the middle option here of browser cache, and I go ahead and save settings. That's all I do. Would be quite interesting to see how the GT metrics report differs and if it gets any better. So let me rerun it and let's compare. So if you can believe it, it improved even more. So with Breeze enabled, it now scores 100% for performance. The fully loaded time went down to 0.7 seconds from 1.3 seconds. And if we go ahead and compare these variables here, you can see the effect that the Breeze plugin has had. So everything has come down further with the Breeze plugin. So well worth giving Breeze a try. How to clear your caches if you have any problems, if you try out Breeze and things are breaking, layouts are breaking, or anything isn't working as you expect it to. In your dashboard, you're going to have this item called Breeze, and you just click Purge All Caches. And if you want to disable any of these, you just uncheck them and save the changes, purge your caches, and see if that resolves the problem. Having said that, I very, very seldom experience any problems with Breeze on my sites, and I'm developing all day and every day. So I hope this has been helpful, how to move your server over, your website over to Cloudways Volta HF, and you can see the massive impact it can have on your site performance, not just for you on the back end of your website, but also for people browsing your site and interacting with you. You're going to have some lovely features available here in your server. You can monitor what's going on your servers and see exactly how it's pottering along. You can see if your server's big enough. So if you go to servers over here, this is important. We've got this little 2 gig server that we've spun up for this example. You can go along to server monitoring, and it's going to load stats and tell you if there's any problem, if you don't have enough memory, or you don't have enough space, or you don't have enough whatever, it's going to tell you. So the first time it loads, it'll obviously take a few seconds. As you can see here, it's loading the stats, and this is obviously a new server. So there you can see it's only using 472 megs of the 2 gigs memory available. It's using 2% of CPU, and it's using a tiny amount of the available disk space. So this server is more than ample to handle this website, and could probably handle another 2 or 3, possibly up to 5 websites, depending on how heavy they are. So that's this first tutorial of how to move across to really amazing hosting. Click on the subscribe button and click on the link to go across to Cloudways, and open your Cloudways account and get your site moved. You will never regret it.